Hello, everybody. My name is Gabe Cheng. I am the writer and self-publisher behind Gabe Cheng Comics. Very original name for my company that I started. I have a Kickstarter going on right now for a short story one-shot called "Stuck in the Middle," which is about a let me make sure I get this right here. A reclusive fallen angel who sees a chance to get back into heaven when a demon and former nemesis moves into the apartment next door. The art is by an artist named Elisa Menegel, who I have collaborated with a number of times and is a incredible artist. If you go to Kickstarter right now and search "Stuck in the Middle," it will come right up. If you go to gabechengcomics.com, you can see a preview of it, and that will also take you to Kickstarter. Or if you're on Instagram, I am at Gabe Cheng Comics. You can see previews of the pages and some of the rewards we're offering, and that will also take you to the Kickstarter page.
Nice. When's the Kickstarter over?
It is over on Friday, April 5th. So it's a quick turnaround one. I was doing it for about a week and a half. Launched it on March 20th, and yeah, so it's coming into the final stretch right now.
Is it funded?
Not yet. It is. It's been a little bit of a slow going one. I don't want to sound ungrateful for the people that have supported, but it is a slower start than I was hoping. So I'm hoping to change a couple of my strategies, do a couple of different things in the last week here to try to encourage more people and promote to more people and get to the goal in the next couple of days.
And you got a book called Crashlands, right?
Yep, I have. Well, I have five. Wait, is it five? It might be six short stories that I wrote in 2020 and have spent the last couple of years producing, um, and uh, and doing Kickstarters for. Or one of them was part of an anthology. And yeah, Crashlands is one of them. My second most recent one that I did with an artist named Julia Pratt.
And you got For Molly?
I got For Molly, which is my limited series that I turned into my first graphic novel. I did that with an artist named Benjamin Sawyer. And yeah, that was, as I said, it was my first comic, my first foray into the indie comics world. It was definitely a big learning experience. It's about a antisocial talking dog named Molly who helps a outside living alone in the New Jersey forest, who helps an outsider rescue his sister from a hidden evil. So it's a big, sprawling action story, big kind of world building exercise. But it's at its heart, it's a kind of a buddy story about two characters that are very have a lot of baggage at the beginning of the story, kind of broken, come together. At first, of course, they butt heads, and then throughout the whole adventure of the comic, they realize that they need each other kind of in more ways than one. So very proud of that book. That you can preview on my website. The first issue is available for free. Just scrolling through the pages, and yeah, I'm very proud of that book.
And you got Love at First Bite?
Yeah, Love at First Bite. That was the first short story I did with Elisa. That is about a capricious young woman who decides to get back at her boyfriend by becoming a vampire and rubbing his face in it. So I'm again very proud of that one. That was my first attempt at doing a short story comic. That was right at the beginning of the pandemic. I submitted a couple of short story pitches to an anthology comic, like in January of 2020, and it wasn't accepted. So I decided that, well, I'm not going to wait for somebody to give me permission to do this comic. I have a really good idea. I have a fun idea, and I think it would be fun to make and fun to read. So I went on Upwork, like I do, which is the freelancing website, and I found Elisa. This was my first comic with Elisa. She was either right out of university at the time or was just finishing up. So she's a younger artist. She is located in Florence, Italy. So she is international. There's an 11-hour time difference between the two of us. And yeah, that was our first collaboration, and she was just incredible. from the get-go, not just in her art, which was super fun and super emotive, which are like definitely the two things that I number one and two things that I love about her art is not just how um, dynamic and energetic and fun it all is, but also like the way that she captures the emotions of the characters and renders them in really really cool ways, that not just in their facial expressions, but in their gestures um, and in their poses and all that stuff. She's just so expert at it. And and yes, we put together this comic. It's only 9 pages. We did a quick Kickstarter for it, and it's one that has really been near and dear to my heart, just with the type of humor it was, the type of art that it is. There's a couple of really kind of dark jokes in there. There's a couple of more goofy jokes in there, and that has been. I've always gotten a good response out of that one specifically. That's my wife's favorite comic that I've written.
Yeah, I'm looking at the preview on your website now. It looks really good. I like her art too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that was a good
And
choice.
yeah, and she's the same artist for Stuck in the Middle, so she did some incredible art for this one. Love at First Bite is only 9 pages. Stuck in the Middle is 17 pages, so it's not quite a full story. So I definitely put that on Front Street. It says right there on the Kickstarter it's a short story, um, but it's more of a full meal, I would say, and it's a complete story. So it's not like there's a big cliffhanger or people are waiting for years and years for issue 2, which is uh, it, I've been in that situation where I it's been huge gaps between issue 1 and 2 of For Molly, and but which is why I decided to do more one shots. And it's a story that I'm very proud of. So
Into the Wilderness. What is
into
that
the
one about?
Into the Wilderness is a spin-off of For Molly. I was actually on a podcast a number of years ago to promote For Molly issue 2 or 3, and the host mentioned to me like, "Oh yeah, I really love these side characters. Like, when are we going to get their own? When are they going to get their own comic?" And it was literally like the thinky emoji, like right after, like like, and then the wheels started turning. And so a year or so later, because I'd already had a backstory in mind for these characters, um, but it didn't really come through in the pages of For Molly. So I put out a short story, 13 pages, with those two characters as the focus, still kind of existing in the world that I'd created in the New Jersey forest for Molly. And it is, it's kind of a noir story. It's kind of a Western story because it is two characters that are kind of the quote unquote law in a lawless world.
Mm.
Um, and um, and it's a murder mystery story. So it's combining a lot of genres that I really really enjoy, and in a very real way, it's also kind of an ode um, to Batman and how I would write a Batman story, because it is about um, again, it's kind of law in a lawless world. So they are essentially vigilantes. So it's about a vigilante and a mentor. The mentor in this case being a dog. So I kind of wrote it in a way that's like a Bruce and Alfred story,
Mm.
where it's Bruce is close to going off the rails, and Alfred brings him back. Not in so much as that, but it was very much my like, these are the kind of short stories, the kind of morality plays, the kind of conflicts that would come up, I feel like, in episodes of Batman the Animated Series. So that was kind of my way of doing that, but also kind of expanding my own universe in a way that is absolutely not a superhero story. But but yeah, again, that's a book that I'm very proud of. That was my second collaboration with Lisa Meneghel, and yeah, so it wasn't really until my third collaboration with Elisa, which is The Problem with Parallels, that wasn't actually a story that I wrote for her, because Love at First Bite I just wrote and then looked for an artist. Um, Into the Wilderness was the same way, where I had written it and I was like, do I want to have Ben do it? But then I was keeping Ben busy with For Molly. So I decided to branch off, and so I had Elisa do it. Um, and then so after 2 times working with Elisa, I was like, all right, let's keep the ball rolling here. Like, I've got another story idea. The problem with parallel, so I was like, all right, this is how do I write this so that I'm writing to her strengths. So and she absolutely nailed that one too.
Sweet. Are you gonna go back in the future and like do more longer stories with
Yeah,
the short
yeah,
stories?
yeah. I
Excuse me.
have a couple of scripts that I am planning to do next that are a bit longer and also are intended to be a limited series. So they're not just one shots that will eventually become a graphic novel. So similar to, excuse me, so similar to For Molly. Yeah, the next thing I'm going to do is going to be a 4-issue series that becomes a graphic novel that I'm kind of excited about. But it's I'm also kind of staying within the short story parameter. So it's only right now I think that it's 18 pages the script. So I'm very much like trying not to go too far off the rails. Like if I give myself at least I feel like if I give myself like infinite pages, I'm gonna write a 35 page script, and it's like it, and then like get to the end of it and like, is this really producible? Like, do I have the the resources to make this and pay an artist to do 35 pages? Um, so I do tend to like to build myself a little box and challenge myself to tell a story within those parameters, or else I don't want to go too far off the rails. So yeah, the next thing I'm going to do, which is called This Seems Normal. It's going to be four issues, um, probably 18 to 20 pages each. That will eventually become a graphic novel, but will be pretty episodic, where it's not going to be a continuous story through the whole things. There'll be some connective tissue between the issues, but
Hmm.
really it'll be singular stories that if you were to pick up 2 or 3, then you could still enjoy it, despite not having read the entire series. Not that it's going to be an exceedingly long series.
Do you print all of these, or are they all digital?
Some of them, well, I do make them available via digital, but yeah, I use various printers to distribute. I mainly distribute through Kickstarter, through the backer fulfillment. Um, but yeah, I've started to now go to more cons. I'm trying to make a calendar for that for this upcoming year, and then I'm trying to get a web store set up. Just hasn't quite happened yet, but yeah,
Are you in comic book stores yet?
not yet. No, that's another one of my goals, to definitely connect with a publisher and get that going. Um, yeah, my first kind of connection with a publisher was with Warden Comics. They do Double Cross and Nod and Crow and the Eternal Night. So I was in one of their anthologies called um, Monstrosities. I had to think about it for a second because they have a new one called O. And then we collaborated on another short story called Requiem and Relki. So that was my first kind of dip into the small press publishers, which was a really good experience. So yeah, the goal is to do more of that as well.
Okay. And you said you're planning cons. Do you have any set in concrete right now that you're going to?
Not at the moment. I'm hoping to, I was hoping to get into WonderCon, which happened this weekend, but kind of,
No.
I've never gotten past the wait list for that. And then I had a couple of things come up that had to, some personal family things that had to get moved around and couldn't change over this weekend, so I couldn't even attend, even though I wanted to. But yeah, I'm hoping to get some onto the calendar pretty soon. I just haven't nailed those down just yet.
So when you do announce them, where are you gonna announce them at? Are you gonna use social media?
Yeah, it'll be on my Instagram at Gabe Cheng Comics.
Are you? What other social medias are you on?
That's it. I I left Facebook and X not too long ago, I was finding myself just with diminishing returns on it, just as far as the amount of work that I was putting into it and the amount of time it was distracting me from other things I could be doing versus the amount of engagement I was getting. And also the amount of just enjoyment I was getting on being on it. It was just those things just were outweighing the connectivity and the the feedback and all that stuff. So I'm just on Instagram for the moment.
Yeah, we tried Twitter. We have a Twitter, but it hasn't even gone off the ground yet.
Yeah.
It's so hard to keep like a Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram and YouTube all going at the same time.
Yeah. It's like how I imagined Daenerys Targaryen felt, just having to constantly feed giant dragons, just like just shoveling
Yeah, right.
shoveling it into them.
That's what it feels like. So, dead or alive, who would you like to make a comic book with? Your dream team.
Oh man, that's a good question. First thing that comes to mind, I feel like I would like a cover from Alex Ross. Um, I don't know if I would. I haven't read a lot of books where he's the main artist for them, but like artist for covers, I'm like, yeah, yeah, that's cool. Um, I would say like, yeah, and for the interior art, I would say Darwin Cook,
Okay.
like that kind of classic throwback style, the new frontier style, like that color palette, that the way that his characters look. Um, yeah, I would say Darwin Cook.
Okay.
And that's a good question. I've never really thought about it. So that's my honest knee jerk reaction. I've never really thought about that. But as far as like the types of stories that I'm telling, the kind of fun adventure, but has a little bit of darkness to it, has a little bit of grit to it sometimes, um, has a little bit of bite to it. It's not, it's lighthearted satire, but it's um, certainly not like all candy corn and rainbows and all that stuff. It's not. It's a little bit wholesome, but it's also not like it's not YA by any stretch. It's you know, I think that's my answer. Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say before we go?
Yeah. Please support Stuck in the Middle on Kickstarter right now. It's a very fun comic. It's a comic that I'm extremely proud of. We've got a couple of cool rewards too. We did a variant cover that my sister Izzy Cheng, who's an incredible artist, did that as a bit of a parody of the Sistine Madonna. So those the famous everybody's probably seen it, but it's one of those things that it's so a part of like daily life that you're like, oh yeah, that's a work of art. The two angels that are like leaning on a counter and like looking up. Um, so I did a little parody of that with my two characters, Dante and Mario, as the two angels looking up, and I'm very proud of that variant cover. It's very fun. My sister has done variant covers for most of my comics, um, and that's one of the rewards. There's also stickers and magnets and other books that I've written. So all the books that I talked about
Mm.
today on the podcast are all available as part of the Stuck in the Middle campaign. So if any of them interest you, they're available as add-ons. They're available in the Gabe Cheng Comics bundle. And yeah, I'm very proud of this comic, and I'm excited to share it.
All right. Appreciate you taking the time to come talk with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
What? You mean you haven't subscribed to Comic Chat Authority? Oh, come on, subscribe already. What are you waiting for? It's no big deal. Like, man, don't forget to tell him to hit that like button. Yeah, that too. Just subscribe.